Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So, I finally got my hands on the Book of the Dead, and I was going to cover all the new Undead archetypes in that book. However, that's going to be too long of a video, so today I'm covering the Ghost and the Ghoul. So if you like what you see, like, subscribe, ding that bell, and let's dive in. First of all, unlike the skeleton, which is a full-on ancestry, and therefore a topic for another video, these undead work like archetypes. Just like other archetypes, you do have to give up class feats in order to take feats from the archetype. You can still play these types of undead from level 1. You gain the benefits of the dedication at level 1, but you must take the dedication feat at level 2. Remember, these are rare archetypes, so your GM has every right to say, no, you're not playing as undead in my campaign. Each of these undead dedications give you basic undead benefits. First, you automatically know Necril as a language on top of the other languages that you get from your ancestry. You also gain low light vision or dark vision if your ancestry had low light vision. Also, just like any other undead, you have the negative healing ability. This means you are healed by negative energy and harmed by positive energy. However, unlike normal undead, if you're knocked down to 0 hit points, you aren't destroyed. You follow the same rules for dying as any other character. But because you're undead, spells like Stabilize that bring you back from the dying condition don't benefit you. If you would die, then you are destroyed like any other undead. As an undead, you're also immune to death effects, meaning you can't be automatically killed, since you're already dead, and effects can't automatically increase your dying value. However, it doesn't make you immune to other parts of the spell or effects. For example, if you were targeted by a phantasmal killer, you would still take the mental damage and be frightened, you just can't die from it. As undead, you also have a +1 bonus on saving throws and any other defense against diseases and poisons. And lastly, while you don't eat and drink like normal humanoids do, you usually have hungers or thirst related to your undead state. For example, the ghoul's craving for humanoid flesh, or the vampire's need to suck blood. As an undead, you don't sleep, but you do need to spend 4 hours per day recuperating. This has the same benefits as a humanoid getting 8 hours of sleep. In addition, some archetype feats do give you access to the advanced undead benefits. If you gain these benefits, then for starters, you gain dark vision if you don't already have it. Your bonus against diseases and poisons increases to +2. In addition, you gain poison resistance equal to half your level. And finally, you gain a +1 bonus on saving throws or any other defense against paralysis and sleep effects. The regular medicine skill doesn't work on you. However, there is the Stitch Flesh medicine skill feat. This allows characters to heal undead in the same way that they heal the living with the medicine skill. Since taking the dedication for each of the undead that I'm covering in this video gives you the basic undead benefits, I'm not going to mention them again. However, if a feat gives you the advanced undead benefits, I will mention that. Okay, we're going to start with the Ghost dedication. There is a ton to this feat, so let's get started. First up, you gain the incorporeal trait, but you can't pass through solid objects unless you also select the pass through feat, which I'll cover later in this video. As a goat, you can also float. Replace your land speed with an equal fly speed. However, you can't rise more than a few inches off the ground when you fly. You can rise above many types of difficult terrain and hazards without triggering the hazards or slowing down. You can also leap, high jump, and long jump, but you use your fly speed for any calculations needed. As a ghost, you can also transmute physical objects to be part of your incorporeal form. This takes 10 minutes with the objects within your reach. You can also untransmute any objects that you've already transmuted during this time. Doing this allows you and other incorporeal creatures to use them normally, with all the benefits and downsides. For example, if the item has an invested trait, you still need to invest in it. But the item also retains all of its magical abilities. Your incorporated weapons gain the Ghost Touch property rune, allowing you to use them against both incorporeal and corporeal creatures. Incorporated items only become corporeal again when they are destroyed or you transmute them back. Your unarmed attacks also become magical and deal negative damage instead of their normal type. Unlike normal incorporeal creatures, you keep the same strength you had in life. However, you cannot attempt strength-based skill checks against non-incorporeal creatures as normal. Against incorporeal creatures, apply your strength modifier normally to skill checks and damage rolls that rely on strength. And finally, when you become a ghost, you and your GM must work together to decide a bound site and unfinished business that you have. Your bound site can either be a place that was important to you during your life or the place that you died. Your unfinished business keeps you from moving on to the afterlife. If someone finishes your unfinished business, then you must decide whether to move on or to fight it. If you choose to move on, you get a few minutes to say your goodbyes, and then you move on to the afterlife. At this point, your character ceases to be. If you choose to fight the change, you remain, though your GM and you may decide that you have other unfinished business. If you are physically destroyed, you cease your existence as a ghost. However, you might still be tethered if you have unfinished business. So you might become a different creature entirely, or you might become an anchor to a summoner and an eidolon. Then we've got Frightful Moan. For 2 actions, once every 10 minutes, we can force all living creatures in a 30-foot emanation to make a will save against our class DC or our spell DC, whichever is higher. On a successful saving throw, the target is unaffected and immune to the Frightful Moan for 1 minute. On a failure, the target is frightened 1. On a critical failure, the target is frightened 2. This is a pretty good feat. However, you do have to be careful about when you use it. Remember, it's all living creatures in that 30-foot emanation. So unless all the PCs are undead creatures, you might hit them with this too. Also at level 4, you can pick up Ghostly Resistance. Your maximum HP is reduced by your level. However, you gain resistance 1 to all damage except force positive and any damage done with a ghost touch weapon. This resistance increases to 2 against anything non-magical. At 10th level, the resistance increases to 2 or 4 against anything non-magical. At 16th, this resistance increases to 3 or 5 against non-magical attacks. Sure, this feat lowers your HP by a little bit, but getting resistance to pretty much all damage is really good. Combine this with something like Orc Ferocity and the feats that are tied to that, and your character is pretty hard to take down. With Ghostly Grasp, you gain the advanced undead benefits. In addition, you can attempt strength-based skill checks against physical objects and creatures. You can also interact with physical objects. However, the action has no effect unless you succeed at a DC 20 Thievery or Athletics check. This is great for the ghosts out there that want to do athletic stuff, especially. We can use Ghost Flight for 2 actions once per day. With this feat, for 10 minutes, we can fly to any height we want instead of being tethered a few inches off the ground. This is great for when we want to stay out of reach of enemies. To take the pass-through feat, you need to be a master in acrobatics. For 3 actions, once every 10 minutes, you can attempt to pass through 1 solid object. You fly up to your speed, but you must make an acrobatics check in order to actually pass through the object. The DC is usually 30 for a 5-foot wall, 15 for a regular door, and 10 for something thinner like a window. The GM might set a higher DC for something more dense like lead, or for something that is magically reinforced. You can't use pass-through to go through something made of force, like Wall of Force. If you succeed, you can move through the object, treating it as difficult terrain. If you end your turn within the object, you are slowed 1. You also can't move out of the object unless you use pass-through again or some other ability that allows you to move through solid objects. If you fail, your movement ends and you trigger reactions as though you had moved out of the square that you started in. I wonder if there's a way to see through solid objects. If there is, this feat is amazing. If not, it can be good for some situations. With Rejuvenation, if you are destroyed, then you reform 2d4 days later within your bound sight, fully healed. However, if your unfinished business is resolved while you're waiting, you pass on immediately. Unless, of course, you and the GM determine that you have new unfinished business. And the last feat for the ghost is Unlimited Ghost Flight. The height you can fly is no longer restricted. When you use Ghost Flight, instead of its normal effects, you can increase your fly speed by 10 feet for 10 minutes. Okay guys, I got time for one more in this video, so let's talk about the Ghoul Archetype. As a ghoul, your undead craving is for the flesh of dead creatures. You gain 2 unarmed attacks that are in the brawling group. Your claws deal 1d4 slashing damage and have the agile and finesse traits. Your jaws deal 1d6 piercing damage and have the finesse traits. You gain the consume flesh action. For one action with the manipulate trait, if you are adjacent to a small or larger dead creature, you can consume its flesh. This creature must have died within the last hour. You become satiated for 1 hour. You can always consume flesh, but consuming more doesn't do anything for you. A ghoul is always either satiated or not. In addition to the feats I'm about to cover, the ghoul also has access to a few feats from the core rulebook. These are guarded movements, reactive pursuits, and wall run. I'm not going to talk about these, but they are on screen. The first feat for ghouls in this book is replenishing consumption. Once every 10 minutes, when you consume flesh, you heal for 1d6 points of damage for every 2 levels that you have. And of course, this is rounded up. This actually can be a lot of healing, especially if you got low maximum hit points. With Swift Leap, you can for one action leap without triggering any reactions. Also, if you are satiated, you can choose to end your satiation to instead long or high jump without triggering any reactions. This feat is okay in my book. I mean, if you're satiated, then you can long or high jump for one action, which is awesome. But otherwise, you're really not going to run into that many enemies that have reactions that are triggered by movement. And now we come to one of my personal favorites, ghoul feats. With Feverish Enzymes, for 2 actions, we can make a claw or jaw strike. The attack deals negative damage instead of its normal type. On a hit, the target halves any healing it receives until the start of your next turn. The target or an adjacent ally can spend 2 interact actions squeezing the enzymes from the wound, removing the effects. If you are satiated, when you hit, you can choose to end your satiation in order to increase the duration to 1 minute. Since you're a ghoul, and you're probably in some kind of undead campaign, the GM is more than likely to throw a cleric at you at some point. Or at least someone with a heal spell. While this feat won't help you with positive damage coming your way, it will make their healing less effective on their allies and themselves. This means you may be able to take out that cleric quicker. Also at 6th level, we have Grave Strength. This gives you the advanced undead benefits. In addition, while satiated, you gain a +5 status bonus to your speed. This feat is okay. I mean, a 5-foot movement speed bonus is always going to help with your mobility, which can be incredibly useful for teamwork. However, the advanced undead benefits, yeah, they're not near as good for teamwork. They mainly only help you. At 8th, we've got Paralyzing Slash. For 2 actions, we can make a claw or jaw strike. If you hit a living non-elf creature with this strike, they must succeed at a fortitude save against your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher. If it fails, it becomes paralyzed. Regardless of the result of the save, the target is immune to paralyzing slash for 24 hours after this. A creature that becomes paralyzed can make a new save at the end of each of its turns to end the condition. Also, each time it attempts such a save, the DC decreases by 1. This is a great way to take enemies off the board for at least a round. True, they have more and more chance to get out of the paralysis as time goes on. However, if you're legendary in your class or spell DC, this could take an enemy off the board for multiple rounds. Also at level 8, we have another really good feat. Sickening Bite. If you critically hit an opponent with their Jaws attack, they become Sickened 1. This is a disease effect. Also, if we are satiated, then we can end our satiation to do this on a regular hit instead of just a critical hit. This feat is insane. Imagine this on a fighter, an unarmed fighter. Just, we crit them, they're sickened. No saving throw or anything, period. Amazing. At 10th level, we get access to Glutton for Flesh. If you consume flesh while satiated, you become fully satiated. You remain fully satiated for 3 hours, and then satiated for 1 hour after that. If you're fully satiated when an ability would end your satiation, you cease being fully satiated but remain satiated. Also, if you have grave strength, then the speed bonus from being satiated is increased to 10 feet while you're fully satiated. Just so you can use the satiation effects of feats more often. And also you could use it so you don't have to spend so much time eating dead things. And we'll end on a high note with Corpse Stench. You have a 10-foot emanation sickening aura. Any creature that starts its turn within your aura must succeed at a fortitude save against your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher. If they fail their saving throw, they're sickened 1. If they critically fail their saving throw, they're also slowed 1. Also, while in this aura, creatures take a -2 penalty on saves against disease and to recover from the sickened condition. Creatures that succeed on their saving throw are immune to Corpse Stench for 1 minute. While this is an amazing feat, you do have to be careful because this can affect your allies as well. If you take this feat, you need to make sure that all of your allies stay at least 15 feet away from you. That way they're never affected. This means you can never have a flanking partner with this feat. However, there are other ways to get the flat-footed condition besides just flanking. So what do you guys think of the Ghost and the Ghoul? Let me know down in the comments. If you want to see some teamwork builds, you can check out these videos here. And until next time, remember, teamwork is vital.